y'all, and welcome to the Healthy by Heather Brown podcast, where I encourage you in healthy mind, body, and spirit through my Sunday reset. Let's get into it. Here at the Healthy by Heather Brown show, we're on a mission to help women take back their health, mind, body, and spirit God's way. No woo-woo, new age fluff, or mainstream nonsense. In a world pushing quick fixes and burnout, we're choosing real wellness, intentional living, and faith-filled confidence. This show is for you, sister, and it's made possible by this incredible community. If you believe in this mission, here's how you can help. 1, pause and leave a 5-star review. It's free and makes a huge impact. Share with a bestie who needs this message. 3, support the mission financially. Every little bit helps. Links for PayPal and Venmo are in the show notes. Let's rise up and change the culture, showing the world what healthy, empowered, faith-filled women really look like. Hey girl gang, hey, today's guest is not your average gut health guru. She is a PhD wielding, bloat busting, hormone balancing powerhouse who's been in the trenches herself. Dr. Heather Finley, yes, we have the same name, and yes, we have also already met, is a registered dietitian with a doctorate in clinical nutrition, and she's here to flip the script on everything you thought you knew about healing your gut. If you've ever been told to just cut more foods or learn to live with the bloat, get ready. Dr. Heather and her Gut Together method are all about freedom, not restrictions. She helps women ditch the food fear. She helps women ditch the food fear, clear the brain fog, and find root cause healing from the inside out. No more Band-Aids, no more burnout. We're going there. Hormone chaos, GI flare-ups, why your gut health actually affects your spiritual and emotional wellness, and I'm even sharing my personal test results. So let's get into it with Dr. Heather Finley, because your gut is talking, and it might be saying something different than what you think. Whoa, Dr. Heather, we've got a lot to talk about today. I'm so pumped.
I am pumped too. This is going to be great. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me.
It really is. And so y'all, just so you know, Dr. Heather and I met at an event. How long ago was that? Oh gosh, a couple months ago now?
A month or two maybe?
Yeah, in Nashville. And so she was in town from Dallas. I was there from Birmingham, and we immediately hit it off. We were like, wait, haven't we been talking about doing podcasting together for a while? We were at a podcasting event. It was so much fun. And so now she was telling me about her test that I just took. So tell them what the test is. Give us a little background if you don't mind.
Yeah, I know. This has been a long time coming because we had emailed about doing this like a year or two ago, and then I dropped the ball because I had a baby and all the things. So I'm so glad to be here. And we are talking about the hair tissue mineral analysis today, which someone might be thinking, what do minerals have to do with gut health? So we can definitely go there. But I'm really excited to go over your test and what the results mean and how to optimize everything to get you feeling as good as you can.
Me too. I'm like, this feels a little vulnerable because I'm like, you guys are going to hear my results at the same time I do. So the reaction will be raw and real.
That's what we want. That's what we want.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So can we go ahead and get into a little bit maybe about like, what is HTMA and like, why do you love using it with your clients? I know that you said that this is a little bit different than normal blood work or hormone panels. So what is it going to help people learn about that's different than those things?
Yeah, totally. So HTMA, like I said, is hair tissue mineral analysis. So yes, you do have to cut a small portion of your hair. It wasn't that traumatizing though, right? It
wasn't, but I was laughing because I couldn't really see what I was doing. And in hindsight, I was like, I should have asked a friend or somebody to help me with it. And when I went to my hairdresser last week, she was like, oh, you weren't kidding. Like you literally cut a chunk out of your hair. I was like, I did. But it's hidden. I mean, it's like underneath layers, so it's fine.
Yeah. Most of our clients have their hairdressers do it or a husband or someone, but then we have those that go rogue like you and just do it themselves and, whatever. It's okay.
Yes.
But yeah, so you cut a piece of your hair as close to your scalp as possible. And basically what HTMA is showing us is it's kind of a window into your mineral status over the last 3 months, which is a little bit different than blood work. So if you went and got your blood labs drawn today, it would show you exactly what's happening today. And blood work can flux a lot. So your body is always pushing minerals to your blood to keep things as normal as possible. If you have minerals off in your blood work, we have a serious problem. So you are in the hospital probably with some kind of issue. But with HTMA, it gives us a look at how everything is interacting together. And you can often predict patterns in the hair way before they would ever become a problem in the blood. And then minerals are really kind of like a symphony. So it's not super helpful to know like what your sodium level is or what your magnesium level is. It's more important to look at how they're all working together because minerals are like a symphony. So if the violinist is off, the whole thing sounds terrible. So we want to look at the ratios of minerals. And the cool part about HTMA is the ratios can tell us a lot about how your hormones are functioning, how your digestion is functioning, detoxification, thyroid, adrenals, all the things that us midlife women are concerned about. And so we love using HTMA because it gives us a little bit deeper of a look into metabolism and how the body's working. And minerals are a lot more important, I think, than most people realize. We have to have minerals in order to make hormones and make enzymes to help us with digestion, to make stomach acid, to help us manage stress. We actually dump a lot of minerals when we're stressed. And so we often work with a lot of clients that have done gut protocols or done elimination diets or done a parasite cleanse or you name it. And they're like, yeah, I mean, I kind of feel better, but I still have X, Y, and Z issue. And oftentimes it's because foundationally their minerals are really out of whack. And so the body can only do so much with what we actually have available as far as like raw material. It's like trying to build a house and focusing on like what wallpaper you're going to put in the bathroom versus like pouring the concrete foundation first, if that makes sense. So it's really setting the stage for healthy digestion, healthy hormones, healthy detox, healthy metabolism.
Yeah, that is so interesting you say that because I definitely feel like that is my case. Like my audience knows I go to Dr. John Palmer here in Birmingham. He's a naturopath and chiropractor, and I've done multiple detoxes with him, parasite cleanses, all the things, but I'm still struggling a little bit just with hormonal acne. And then also, you know, just some of the things that you and I will get into in a moment. But that it is just fascinating because I'm like, wow, that you're literally describing me. I feel like as a client that you typically are seeing for those things. So will you tell everybody because you mentioned the symphony, the 4 core minerals, what are they? I think you mentioned magnesium and potassium already, but what are the other 2?
Yeah. So the 4 main minerals are calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And although the mineral test looks at all the minerals and even heavy metals, really, whenever especially we're doing a first test with somebody, we really want to focus on the 4 of those because if those minerals are much more imbalance, it's going to affect all the other minerals. So we can get into this, but one of the big things that came up on your test actually was some iron stuff going on and some signs of like liver stress with like cobalt and sulfur. And so although there's things that we can do for iron and cobalt and everything, we do still also want to focus on the 4 main minerals because those kind of set the foundation for the rest of the minerals, if that makes sense.
That's interesting you say that because Dr. John has told me that before about what did you just said before liver? You said, about metabolizing iron. He was like, you're not metabolizing iron optimally. So that is something that we definitely have our eye out for. So I'm interested to hear that it's still a persistent issue.
Yeah. And that's actually something super common that we see with our clients. I think the narrative is changing a little bit, but our culture is very like obsessed with iron I think in the wrong ways. It's like, oh, your iron levels are low, take iron. But the conversation really should be, your iron levels are low. Let's look at why. Are you not recycling your iron very well, or is it in the wrong place? And for you, what this test is showing actually is that you have a lot of iron. It's just in your tissues and not in your blood. And so we can get into why that is and how to fix that. It's actually a fairly easy fix, but we don't want to store a ton of iron in our tissues. We obviously want our iron to be in our blood. So, that could have a big impact on the acne that you described, as well as like energy and several other things.
Okay. So maybe should I tell them some of the top things that I told you that I was worried about? And so then maybe you can go in my test results.
Totally. Yeah, I think
Perfect.
that's a great place to start.
So I told Heather that I have had persistent acne since I was in high school, and I'll do things and it'll clear for a little bit, but then it inevitably comes back, or it will especially flare up, either a few, whiteheads or something popping up right before my period, and or maybe right after. And then we've talked a little bit about how now that I would say once I hit 39, I felt like when I would be doing things that I used to do to build more muscle and to really work on my body composition, that I've had more resistance despite the healthy lifestyle that has worked for me in the past. And then also maybe having a little bit of energy crashes later in the day, or I actually feel like I've come a long way, because I used to wake up in the morning and be a complete bear. And so I feel like I am noticing that my energy is getting better than what it used to be in the morning. But still, I just know that I mean, as most women that are going to listen to the show, they're also moms. They also might work at least a side hustle. So I'm a full-time entrepreneur. Just husband works a full-time job as a cardiovascular nurse practitioner, changing schedules all the time. So I'm just so interested to hear, what you found and then what tweaks you recommend. And I think the audience will really learn from it as well.
Yeah, totally. So I think there's everything you're saying makes total sense. And there's the interesting thing about minerals is, if someone told me what symptoms they're having, I could probably predict what I'm going to see on the test, but it's never so cut and dry, which is why I love this, because the reason for your afternoon fatigue or hormonal acne could actually be completely different than somebody else's. And so I love that we have this data, because we definitely don't want to be treating the wrong thing, if that makes sense. So there's a couple things on here that I think describe what is going on. And the first thing on this test is basically what it does when you get the report is it will classify you, it'll classify your metabolic type. And so essentially what that means, it doesn't mean that you have a slow metabolism or a fast metabolism, but it's basically looking at your ratios of minerals to see kind of where you are on the burnout scale. Now, don't freak out, because 90% of the clients that we work with have the same result or the same metabolic type that I'm about to say. So You have a slow one. Trust me, been there too, been a slow one as well. But basically what that means is your body's kind of on the far end of the burnout scale. So that's showing us like lower thyroid or lower adrenal output, which can lead to lots of stress, burnout, etc. The difference would be is sometimes we'll get tests back and people might have the same thing that you do, where you're like, I'm exhausted in the afternoon, or I'm trying to build muscle and I can't. They might be a fast metabolic type. And basically the difference there is when somebody's a fast metabolic type, it's showing us that there's an acute stressor. So maybe they have like a gut infection, or maybe they're just in a really stressful period of their life. Whereas a slow metabolic type is like your body's been stressed for a long time, and maybe you're not dealing with excess amounts of stress right now, but it's kind of just out of reserves a little bit. And that's the most common thing that we see, especially in the clients that we work with, all moms, most of them working or, doing some kind of thing like you described. So that's the first thing is that we see on this test, is that you're a slow one. So it's basically saying like, hey, adrenals, I need a little bit of love here. I need a little bit of like perking up. The other ratio that we see that's really significant on this test is your sodium to potassium ratio. And that's another adrenal ratio, which is just showing there's a little bit of stress on your adrenals. So kind of showing like poor stress resilience and a little bit of burnout. Okay. The other ratio that we see is a calcium to potassium ratio. That's what we call like our thyroid response. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, you don't have hypothyroidism or any diagnosed thyroid concern.
I don't.
Okay. Yeah, which is great. So basically all this is showing us, it's not saying you have hypothyroidism. It's saying your thyroid is having to work really hard because of the ratios of minerals here. And so there's some things that we can do to help boost that. And then the last ratio that I'll mention to start is the zinc to copper ratio. This one I think is really significant for your skin. So zinc and copper, they have this relationship with each other where basically if zinc is over supplemented or zinc is too high, it will tank copper. But sometimes what we see is copper is in the wrong place, kind of like what I was explaining with iron. So if iron is in your tissues and not in your blood, then you might have a lot, it's just in the wrong place and we got to mobilize it elsewhere. That's kind of what we're seeing from your test as well, is your copper is possibly buried. And when you have buried copper, that can affect your skin and possibly be contributing to some of the acne that you are describing. So I'll stop there and see if you have any questions or just comments before I kind of keep going on.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I want to say is when you mentioned that about copper, you guys, I have an episode with Dr. John Palmer and kind of like the copper guru that I'm going to link down to in the show notes because it was fascinating here about. Have you heard of Morley Robbins?
Oh yeah, I love his work.
Protocol.
Yeah.
Yes. So he came on and talked to us all about the importance of copper and what it looks like. So I'll link back to that in the show notes. But I'm curious, like the thing that jumps out to you the most about my test initially, would you say it's mainly the slow type supporting the thyroid and buried copper? Is that kind of like the big call outs?
Yeah, I would say definitely, the slow metabolic type, yes and no. That's a common thing that we see. So that never surprises me really anymore. But yeah, definitely the copper, the buried copper is a big one, especially for your skin. And then the other things that stand out to me, are some of these like markers showing just like depleted adrenals, depleted thyroid, and then the iron piece as well, which the iron piece kind of goes with the copper piece. And we can chat about how that's all related. But the slow metabolic type, the low potassium, the low sodium, what those are showing, those are kind of pointing more towards the like lower energy in the afternoon, trouble building muscle, that kind of piece. And then the copper iron piece is more related to your skin.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's kind of two buckets here that we're looking at.
So seeing what you're seeing, does it make you wonder if I should have my thyroid tested? Like, does that test tell you might actually have Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism and not know it, or not really?
We definitely have caught that before. So we've had clients that are like, I think my thyroid's fine, and then they go and get blood work. And one thing that we often see is that the thyroid itself is fine. So on blood work, you'll see TSH is totally fine, but the other pieces are off. So maybe the free T3 level is low, which that's kind of the active thyroid hormone. And if we're talking about the gut and we're talking about the liver, the way that your body converts T4, which is the inactive thyroid hormone, to T3 is largely dependent on your gut health, your liver health, and minerals. And so if there's an imbalance in the gut, or if there's really low levels of minerals, specifically potassium is a big one there, then sometimes the other pieces of the thyroid can be off. So it never hurts to check, especially if you're having thyroid symptoms like your hair is falling out or you feel cold or you kind of feel like that bone tired feeling where you're like, no matter how much I sleep, I'm really tired. It doesn't sound like that's what's going on.
No.
But yeah, we can make it a lot easier and decrease the load on your thyroid by supporting potassium specifically and kind of balancing out those core 4 minerals as well.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I'm like, keep going. I'm fascinated.
Yeah. Right. It's so interesting. And it's crazy how much like one test can show us about like everything that's going on in the body. So let's chat a little bit about the buried copper kind of high iron situation, because we see this a lot with skin. And I think it gets really interesting and fascinating for people about like why this happens. So sometimes we can have iron or copper in the wrong place from stress, of course. What does stress not cause these days? I feel like everybody's sick of talking about stress, but stress, of course. But some other things would be birth control. That can definitely put copper in the wrong place. Taking too much zinc, like I said, they kind of have this inverse relationship. Sometimes it can be poor bile flow. So bile is what is coming from our liver, gallbladder. It helps us to digest fats. Bile is actually antimicrobial and helps us to kill off, unwanted things in our gut, and then gut issues as well. So does anything there like ring a bell as far as like possible buried copper issues specifically to you?
I mean, I don't know. Well, I will say that this is like way TMI, but sorry. But the only thing I'm thinking about is you mentioned something about being slow with processing food. I don't know that I necessarily go number 2 every single day. And I know that that's an issue. And it's like some days, I will, but I would say I might go to the bathroom maybe 5 times a week instead of 7. So would that be in correlation to it?
Possibly. But actually the other thing on your test that would potentially be a piece of this is your calcium is actually pretty high. So we hadn't really talked about calcium. Everyone also is obsessed with calcium, right? It's like, oh, take calcium for your bones. I'm not telling people not to do that necessarily, but sometimes we're over supplementing calcium. And like I was saying, minerals are a symphony. So you can't just take one and it's not going to affect the others.
Sure.
So sometimes what we see with our clients is what we call a calcium shell. You're kind of right on the edge there of like if it would be considered a calcium shell or not, but you've got high calcium and then you also have really high magnesium. And sometimes people will look at this test and be like, oh, wow, I'm taking too much magnesium. But the interesting part about this test is when magnesium is high, what that's showing is possibly a really high magnesium burn rate, meaning that your body is using a lot of magnesium, therefore you need more. So one suggestion that I would have is we need to bring down the calcium and actually bring in more magnesium. But I think from your intake form, you're not taking any sort of calcium. Is that correct? Yeah. So it's likely more just that calcium, again, like iron, is more in your tissues. And we want to push it, of course, to your bones, especially as we age. Yes. We want to make sure that we're pushing it to the right place. There's lots of ways that we can do that. But yeah, the high magnesium and the higher calcium probably explain a little bit more of like why you're going to the bathroom 5 days and not 7 days. So when we do part 2, we'll chat about what we can do to
fix
support that. Yeah. To get all the things moving.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Perfect. So Dr. Heather, is there anything else that you would say like really stands out from my results that you feel like they should hear here before we go talk about how we address it over on your show next?
Totally. So the last thing that I think would be worth mentioning is the cobalt level. So cobalt is something that we often look at, especially from a digestive lens. When cobalt is high, this can often indicate digestive strain or poor digestion. Typically, if it's low, we're looking at like, does somebody have enough stomach acid? Are they actually even able to digest their food? Sometimes when it's really low, we'll be suspicious of like H. pylori infections or just other things that we might see on other gut testing that we do. But yours actually being high, there's a couple things that could be at play. Perhaps just like more demand on your digestive system or just possibly needing a little bit of support. And so, supporting bile flow, supporting digestion, that's also going to help like mobilize some of these minerals as well. One of the main ways that our body absorbs minerals is through stomach acid. And so making sure that we have the digestive capacity to absorb it and utilize it correctly.
Okay. So interesting. So as we're talking about what is one simple step you would say that someone can take if they're not quite ready to take the test yet? Maybe they don't have the finances ready or what have you, but they're like, whoa, this is a lot of good information that I should probably be knowing about my own body too. What's something that they can start with?
I think the best thing that you can start with is supporting those 4 core minerals. And a really easy way to do that is mineral mocktails, which you can get as fancy as you want or as bare bones as you want. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. But really what you're looking at for a adrenal cocktail or mineral mocktail, those are kind of the same thing, is supporting magnesium, sodium, and potassium. We don't typically add calcium to an adrenal cocktail. Most of the time, we're not seeing low calcium on tests. It's more high, and we're getting calcium from a lot of the foods that we eat. So there's really easy ways that you can do that. You can add a little bit of salt to your water when you wake up in the morning. You can even use like cream of tartar from your baking cabinet that's really high in potassium. So like a half teaspoon of that would be kind of a bare bones way of doing it. Then there's obviously products and different things that you can do. The kind of standard adrenal cocktail that you'll see online is orange juice. It has cream of tartar in it, typically collagen for just some blood sugar balance, not necessarily mineral specific, a little bit of coconut milk or coconut cream, depending on how fancy you want to be, and some salt. It tastes like a creamsicle. It's so good. And it's like a little just boost for your adrenals. Most people will notice that if they drink that in the afternoon, they do not need another cup of coffee, or they feel like it really helps beat that afternoon slump. So that can be supporting just those minerals through adrenal cocktails, or just getting more mineral rich foods in your diet can be really helpful. A lot of people are mineral depleted these days because we're either not getting minerals from the foods that we eat, and also our soil is just not as rich in minerals as it once was. So you have to eat a lot more of the same things to get the same amount of minerals that we would have in the past.
Yeah, so interesting. So, Dr. Heather, I have had some of those mineral cocktails before, and they are delicious. In fact, I think I even have a magnesium mocktail on my Instagram that we did. If you guys want to check that out, with the tart cherry juice and all that too.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I am a little bit just like confused too, because I'm like, gosh, I take an electrolyte drink or like pinches of salt all throughout the day, pretty much every day. So, like, what am I just not getting enough, do you think, day to day?
Likely you're not getting enough. Typically, so I always explain it like, let's say we're digging a pool in your backyard, or maybe you have a pool and it's not filled with water. It's going to take a long time to like fill the pool back up, right? Over time, from stress, from antibiotics, from birth control, from other medications, from poor digestion, from giving birth. You have 2 kids. They say it takes up to 7 years to replete minerals from 1 kid.
What?
So from 2 kids, from lack of sleep, all we're doing all day long is pouring water out of our pool or digging more of a ditch. So we have to bring in a bulldozer to really, so it's not like these mineral deficiencies happened overnight, right? So little pinches of salt here and there are helping, but we need a bulldozer, and we also need the right balance, because going back to kind of that symphony analogy. So
that's astounding.
Isn't that crazy?
Years.
7 years. And that's if you're being intentional. And then you think about just like our, getting sick and, all the other stressors on your body, not sleeping. There's studies that show that 97% of Americans don't get the average daily recommended intake of potassium each day. So what did they do? Instead of looking at how do we encourage Americans to get more potassium, they lowered the number, not because we don't need it, but because they're like, well, nobody's meeting this anyway. So forget about it. And potassium is like, if there's one mineral that you should focus on, it is potassium. It will help you be less stressed. It will help your thyroid. It will help your blood sugar. It will help all the things, but nobody's getting enough. So yeah, there we go.
And so potassium, they're getting through you said cream of tartar? Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. But you can get it through things like avocados and potatoes. Everybody's scared of eating potatoes and bananas and all the things that are really good and high in potassium. So add those things back in.
It's just so shocking to me, because I'm like, I eat a banana almost every day of my life, and I have salt. So I'm just like, what? Like, yeah, bring in the bulldozer. So we're going to talk about how to bring in the bulldozer over on Heather's podcast. So you guys, Heather, why don't you tell them where they can find you online, where they can go to listen to the second episode or second part of this discussion to figure out how they can bring in their bulldozer too.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm so excited to talk about what bulldozer we're bringing in. But if you kind of going back to like a great place to start, I do have a mineral guide that's totally free. You can download it. If you just DM me DM me minerals on Instagram, it'll be sent right to you. But you can find me on Instagram. It's just at my name, at Dr. Heather Finley, and I can send you the link. There's tons of recipes and it's all based on like concern. So if you need a recipe for energy, there's recipes for thyroid, for sleep. So you can like pick your poison there. And then the next part of this series will be on the Love Your Gut podcast. So you can look for part 2 there, which I'm excited about.
Perfect. Okay. Well, you guys definitely check her out over there. Tune into that episode, and I'll put the link to her show in my show notes. So you can click directly over there to it and listen to it. And then, Heather, in closing, I ask everyone this question, and that is, how do you reset? And you can choose either mentally, physically, or spiritually, or the way that you do all three. It's up to you.
I mean, I feel like it would be, I have to say, mineral mocktail. So cheers. That's what I'm drinking right now. My go-to afternoon drink is some kind of mineral mocktail. And I like to experiment with different flavors and all the things. So
what do you have in yours today?
So today I have coconut water. I have this powder called Ravy powder, which is it's a very high in potassium. I've got some lime juice and some salt. And it's really good.
I love that. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for today. That was amazing. And Girl Gang, y'all go hop on over and listen. And I'll see you here back next Tuesday as well.
Y'all know I'm obsessed with all things optimal health, as clearly evidenced here on the podcast. Well, let me tell you about a new company and supplement line that I feel is truly going to change the face of not only our health, but also aging. Enter the crazy and amazing world of peptides. I know you've heard a ton about pharmaceutical kinds, the Ozempics, the Wegovy's of the world, all kinds of crazy with the results that people are getting, but also scary in regards to the possible side effects. What if we could get the same results with a peptide that was made in nature instead of a lab? That's where Make Wellness comes in and their line of bioactive precision peptides. You want to be leaner? You want to be fitter? Want to be more hydrated, more energized, focused, all of the above? I am literally obsessed with these, you guys, and I know you will be too. This is the future of where health is headed. Everything is linked in the show notes, so make sure to check them out. I think you're going to be just as obsessed as I am. Okay, friend, that's a wrap on this week's episode. If you're not already following me on Instagram, make sure to screenshot this episode, share it to your stories, and tag @Healthy by Heather Brown so I can connect with you in my DMs. It truly brings me so much joy to see how these episodes impact you. Make sure to subscribe so we can see you back here next Tuesday for our weekly show. In case you don't know, your downloads, ratings, and reviews are the actual lifeblood of this podcast, and it helps spread the word to your friends and family. So please hit the download button on this episode and leave a 5-star rating if you super loved it. And if we're really BFFs, you'll spread the happy and text this podcast link to someone who needs to hear it today for some encouragement. Scroll down to the show notes on this episode to see any and all links mentioned, freebies to fuel your health goals, prior-related episodes, and the 7-day free trial of my exclusive membership where I personally coach and cheer you on in whole health. While you're there, make sure to check out my Amazon storefront with healthy snacks, my favorite look for less workout outfits, and books and devotionals that challenge me in my faith. If you ever need to find my Amazon storefront, just Google Healthy by Heather Brown Amazon and it will come up. Have a great day, Girl Gang.